Level 1. The Conventional Soldier. You're 19. You enlisted because you needed a way out. Out of your town, out of your situation, out of the version of yourself that had no future. You go infantry, you deploy, you see things. You come home and nobody asks about any of it. You're good at this, better than most. Your sergeant notices. Your fitness scores are at the top of every class. You shoot better than men who've been in for 10 years. One afternoon, a quiet guy in civilian clothes sits down next to you at the chow hall. He doesn't introduce himself. He just says, "You ever think about going further?" You say yes before he finishes the sentence. He slides a card across the table. Fort Liberty, briefing, Tuesday. He gets up and leaves. You look at the card for a long time. There's no logo on it, just a number. You show up on Tuesday. Level 2. Selection. You're 22. There are 120 men at the briefing. They look like you. Fit, serious, quiet. Nobody talks much. An officer walks in, no introduction, no rank on his uniform, and explains what the next 4 weeks will be. Long runs, longer ruck marches, land navigation alone in the mountains. No times posted, no scores given. You will never know if you're passing or failing. That's the point. They don't want men who perform when they know they're being watched. They want men who perform when they think nobody is watching, when they're exhausted and alone and have no idea if any of it is working. Why? The long walk is last. 40 miles through the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia. Full pack, no partner, no time limit posted. You start before dawn. By mile 20, your feet are bleeding. By mile 30, you've stopped thinking in sentences. There's only the next step. Then the next one. Then the next one. You finish. You don't know if you passed, nobody tells you anything. You go back to your bunk and wait. 3 days later, a man knocks on your door. Congratulations. Report Monday. Of the 120 men who started, 14 are left. Level 3. The Operator Training Course. 6 months. Nobody outside this building knows what happens in here. You sign documents that say you will never speak about it in detail. You mean it when you sign. You learn to shoot the way most people learn to breathe. Instinctive, automatic. You put thousands of rounds downrange every week until the weapon stops being a tool and starts being an extension of your hands. You learn CQB, close quarters battle, moving through rooms the way water moves, no wasted motion, every angle covered, every decision made in fractions of a second. You learn demolitions, breaching, tradecraft, how to move through a city without being seen, how to build a cover identity, how to drive a vehicle at speeds that shouldn't be survivable and survive them. You also learn hostage rescue. This is the hardest part. Not physically, mentally. You have to make perfect decisions in environments specifically designed to make perfect decisions impossible. A room with 12 people. One is the target. You have 1.3 seconds. You don't get to be wrong. By the end of OTC, half the men who pass selection are gone. The ones who remain don't celebrate. They just show up the next day. That's who they selected for. Men who show up the next day. Level 4. Assault Troop Operator. This is it. You're in. Nobody will ever know you're in. Your family gets a cover story. Your neighbors think you work in logistics. Your file in the Army system lists a unit that doesn't exist in any public directory. You grow your hair out. You wear civilian clothes. You look like nobody. That's the goal. You're assigned to an assault troop. 4 teams. 4 to 5 operators per team. Your team leader is a master sergeant who has been in the unit for 11 years and has conducted operations in places the government has never acknowledged entering. He doesn't impress you with stories. He impresses you by being the best at everything, quietly, every single day. Your first deployment is classified. The location is classified. The target is classified. The outcome is classified. You board a plane with no markings. You land somewhere dark. You do what you train to do. You come home. You don't talk about it. Not to your family, not to your friends, not to the therapist the Army offers you that you don't call, because calling feels like weakness, and weakness was selected out of you 9 months ago. You deploy again and again. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia. Places with no names in any official record. You kill people who need to be killed and rescue people who needed to be rescued, and the world never knows any of it happened. That's the job. You knew that going in. Most days, that's enough. Level 5, team leader. You're 29. You've been in the unit for 5 years. You've conducted more than 60 direct action missions. You've been shot once, always through and through on your left shoulder that you didn't report immediately because the target wasn't secured yet. They make you a team leader. Master Sergeant, E8. 4 men are now your direct responsibility, not just their performance, their lives. This changes everything. Before, your job was to execute perfectly. Now your job is to plan perfectly, execute perfectly, and bring 4 men home who have families and mortgages and children, who draw them pictures that get taped to the walls of forward operating bases in countries their wives can't find on a map. You start sleeping differently, not less. Differently. You run every scenario before every mission until the scenarios run themselves. You know your men's tendencies better than they know them. You know who hesitates in the second room. You know who slows down on hour 3 of a ruck. You build the team around the truth of who they are, not who they think they are. One night in Iraq, the intelligence is wrong. It's wrong in the way that gets people killed. You adapt in real time, everyone comes home. Your squadron commander says nothing. In this unit, coming home is the baseline. You understand? You'd say the same thing. Level 6. Recce Troop Operator. Not everyone gets here. Most operators spend their entire career in assault troops. That's not a failure. Assault is where the mission happens, but Recce is where the mission becomes possible. You're selected for Troop 3, Reconnaissance and Surveillance. You go into places before anyone else goes in, sometimes weeks before. You move alone or in pairs. You don't engage. You watch. You count. You document. You become part of the environment, so completely that people walk past you and see nothing. This requires a different kind of discipline than assault. In assault, the pressure is immediate and explosive. In Recce, the pressure is slow and absolute. You spend 4 days in a hide site watching a compound. You don't move. You don't make noise. You eat cold food and manage your waste in bags and radio in at scheduled times and wait. The raid that makes the news happens because of those 4 days. Your name is not in the news. Your name is not in any document the public will ever read. You knew this going in. You chose it anyway. Level 7. Troop Commander. Your 34th officer track. Captain, then Major. You've been selected to command a troop, 20 operators, the best soldiers in the United States Army, possibly in the world. You don't lead them the way you lead conventional soldiers. You can't. These men have forgotten more about combat than most officers will ever know. Your job is not to tell them how to fight. Your job is to resource them, protect them from bureaucratic interference, make the strategic decisions that let them do the tactical things they do better than you. You sit in rooms with generals and intelligence officials, and you translate between the world of politics and the world of direct action. You fight for your men's operational requirements. You push back when the intelligence is thin. You ask the questions nobody else in the room wants to ask because asking them might delay the mission, and delaying the mission has political consequences. You ask them anyway, because your men are on the other end of that mission. Your troop chief, a sergeant major with 19 years in the unit, keeps you honest. He knows things about this organization and its history that aren't written anywhere. You listen to him more than you listen to anyone with stars on their shoulders. Me? He's kept more men alive than any general you've ever met. Level 8. Squadron Commander. Lieutenant Colonel, you command A squadron, or B or C, or D. The letter is classified. The missions are classified. The casualties, when they happen, are classified. 200 operators fall under your command. You manage 3 troops. You coordinate with JSOC directly. The targets that come to your desk have been approved at the highest levels of the United States government. Sometimes the approval comes from the president personally. You plan operations that will never appear in any history book. You send men into buildings where the margin between success and catastrophe is measured in seconds. You lose men, not often. Nice, but it happens. And when it happens, you write the letter, you make the call, you sit across from a woman whose husband is gone, and you tell her that he died serving his country in a way you cannot describe. and that he was exceptional in ways you cannot explain, and that the world is safer because of what he did, even though the world will never know it. She nods. She already knew the risks. They all know the risks. That doesn't make the letter easier to write. Level 9. Unit Commander. Colonel 06. You command 1st SFODD. All of it. Your name does not appear in public documents. Your face does not appear in official photographs. Your unit is referred to in government communications by designations that change periodically. You report to the JSOC commander. You brief the Secretary of Defense. Occasionally, you brief the President. You manage an organization that operates simultaneously across multiple continents. Real-time operations in 3 time zones at once. Intelligence pipelines feeding you targeting data around the clock. A support structure of nearly 1,000 people built around the 250 operators who actually kick down the doors. The decisions you make happen at a remove now. You don't go on the missions. You send the missions. That distance is the hardest thing you've ever had to learn to carry. You think about the 19-year-old who showed up at that briefing with 119 other men. You think about the long walk. You think about every room you cleared, every hide site you lived in, every letter you wrote. The unit doesn't know your name outside these walls. The country doesn't know your name. The people you've kept safe have no idea you exist. That was always the deal. You knew that going in. You'd make the same choice again, every time.